Nikola Tesla is an enigmatic character, a Serbian-American with a fascinating history. In his own time, he was a legend and a dandy of the press. His every word was reported, his every deed surprised. He was a character of his time and a true showman. But today, there are secrets and conspiracies coming to light that will make us see this man in a new way. His inventions will now seem even more amazing. We are told his wireless technology captured alien signals, and the world was in awe and wanted to know more. That his ideas of wireless power spreading across the planet was so dangerous to the might of the energy companies that he was silenced and starved of finance. That his legacy was ruined and his mental state questioned. The man raised millions and lived the life of royalty, and yet, at the end of his life, he was bankrupt and died in a dirty downtown New York hotel. He had become a character fool for the press, who laughed at him. And yet, 2 days after his death, the FBI raided his apartment and took away all of his possessions. We will investigate the man, his origins, his inventions, dreams and fantasies, and we will tackle head-on the claims surrounding him today. Welcome to the Tesla Enigma. Nikola Tesla was a Serbian-American, a renowned inventor, electrical and mechanical engineer, physicist with a unique vision of the future. For scientists, he is best remembered for his work on alternating current and electrical supply systems. He was born in the world of the Austrian Empire and educated in the 1870s in engineering and physics. In the 1880s, he worked at the Continental Edison Company in the electrical power division. In 1884, he emigrated to the United States, where he became a citizen. There he started work at the Edison Machine Works in New York. But his ambition forced him to strike out on his own. He found financial backers and set up his laboratories to develop electrical and mechanical devices. He came up with the alternating current induction motor and various patents on polyphase alternating currents, which were licensed to the Westinghouse Electric by 1888. This earned him a lot of money and made Westinghouse. His idea was to invent and patent devices for market. He went through many experiments into oscillators, generators, electrical discharge tubes, and early X-ray technology. Soon, he was a household name as an inventor, with celebrities and rich alike seeking out his demonstrations. Like Harry Houdini and today's Elon Musk, Tesla was a great showman. He chased his inventing dreams throughout the 1890s in New York and Colorado Springs, and worked hard on wireless lighting on the worldwide electrical power distribution system. By 1893, he was making claims about the future of wireless communication devices. He attempted to make this vision come true, but his Wardenclyffe Tower project remained unfinished. It was to be an intercontinental wireless communication and power transmitter, but alas, he ran out of money before he could complete it. By the 1910s and 1920s, he was running out of money, and his ideas were largely unsuccessful. he started to live in hotels and left behind unpaid bills. He died penniless in New York in January 1943. Following his death, it seemed that the world forgot about Nikola Tesla. It is only in the past few years that his name has become household again, and today he is being touted as being an unsung hero of the scientific world. But this also brings a lot of new controversy, conspiracy theories, and even alien connections. But what is the truth about Nikola Tesla? In order to understand the claims surrounding this enigmatic character, we must understand his life. He was born in a small and obscure village in Serbia, which was then part of the Austrian Empire. Today it is in present-day Croatia. His father was an Eastern Orthodox priest. It was in fact his mother who was skilled at making craft tools and mechanical appliances. She had a remarkable brain and could memorize extremely long Serbian epic poems, even though she herself had never received any formal teaching. Tesla himself credited his mother with his own creative and memory abilities. It was her genetics that gave him skills. At primary school, he studied German, mathematics and religion. By 1870, the family had moved and Tesla studied at a new high school where he was inspired by the demonstrations of his physics professor. The mystery of the electrical phenomena made him want to learn more about the wonderful force. His unique brain allowed him to perform calculus in his head, but his teachers thought he was cheating. He finished the 4-year course in 3 and graduated in 1873. He returned to Smiljan and contracted cholera. He spent 9 months in bed and nearly died. To inspire his son, Tesla's father promised to send him to the best engineering school if he recovered. But soon, Tesla had to go on the run to evade conscription to the Austro-Hungarian army. He managed to get away southeast and explored the mountains. He later stated that this connection to nature made him physically and mentally stronger. While away, he read and read, saying that Mark Twain in particular had helped him to recover. By 1875, he enrolled into the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz on a military frontier scholarship. In his first year, he didn't miss a single lecture and attained the highest possible grades, passing twice as many exams as the other students. He received a letter of commendation to his father from the Dean of the Technical Faculty. It read, "Your son is a star of the first rank." But by year 2, he was running into conflicts with his professor over a Gram dynamo because Tesla insisted that commutators were not necessary. He worked like a madman from 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. with no holidays or weekends off. It was at this point that his life started to take a turn for the worse. He lost his scholarship and became addicted to gambling. In the 3rd year, he had gambled away his allowances and his tuition money. but he did later gamble again and win back his money. He later said that he had combated his passion and beat it, even though later in life he was known to enjoy gambling while playing billiards, but he never graduated. He severed all relations with his family in shame, and indeed his friends even thought he had died. He moved to Maribor and worked as a draftsman and spent his spare time gambling. His father found him and begged him to return home, but he wouldn't and suffered a nervous breakdown. He was sent home for not having a residence permit. His father died in 1879, and Tesla discovered a parcel of letters from his professors, warning him that Tesla might die from overwork. Nikola taught in Gospic Old School until two of his uncles gave him the money to move to Prague in order to study. But he arrived too late to enroll, and he had never studied the required Greek. He did attend the lectures in philosophy as an auditor. By 1881, he had moved to Budapest in Hungary to work for the telegraph company. He soon worked out that the company was not functional and worked as a draftsman instead. He then became chief electrician and made various improvements to the equipment. He claimed he had perfected a telephone repeater or amplifier. There is no or little evidence of this. By 1882, he was on his way to Paris to work with Continental Edison, installing lighting across the city. He gained a lot of electrical engineering experience here and was noticed by the management when he started making improvements. He was soon being sent out as a troubleshooter across France and Germany. By 1884, his manager was sent back to the United States, and he took Tesla with him. Immediately, he started work at the machine works in Manhattan as a troubleshooter. Tesla met Edison himself and noted the occasion in his diary that Edison had stated Tesla was a damned good man for working too long and hard. However, after only 6 months, Tesla quit, and nobody is sure why. Some think it's because he didn't get a bonus for all his efforts. Tesla later wrote that he'd been promised a $50,000 bonus, but it turned out to be a practical joke. Whether or not this is true is unknown, but it would have been more cash than the company actually had. Tesla's diary simply states, "Goodbye to the Edison Machine Works." By 1885, he was meeting a patent attorney for his new arc lighting system. He was soon introduced to two rich businessmen who financed his Tesla Electrical Light and Manufacturing Company. For that whole year, he worked hard at obtaining patents for his improved DC generator and other devices. He was on the way up. But his investors didn't see things in the same way as he did, and they changed the company and formed a new utility business. Tesla lost control of his own patents because they were owned by the company. Virtually destitute, he now worked doing repair jobs and even as a ditch digger. He later stated, "My high education in various branches of science, mechanics and literature seemed to me like a mockery." In 1886, he met Alfred S. Brown, a Western Union superintendent and a New York attorney. They were investors and decided to back Tesla based on his thermomagnetic motor idea. They started the Tesla Electric Company in 1887 with a three-way split on profits. In 1887, Tesla developed an induction motor that ran an alternating current, a power system format that was rapidly expanding in Europe and the United States because of its advantages in long-distance, high-voltage transmission. It was patented in 1888 and did not need a commutator, as he had previously argued about with his old professor. This reduced costs with less maintenance. Soon, the Tesla name was being publicised. Tesla's new motor was tested by his peers, and it was presented to the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. The business giant George Westinghouse needed such a motor. Tesla's polyphase induction motor and transformer designs were licensed for $60,000 in cash and stock and royalty. Tesla was also hired by the Westinghouse for 1 year for a fee of $2,000 per month to consult. It was a huge sum of money. Tesla developed an alternating current system to power Pittsburgh's streetcars, but his own motors would not do the job. At the time, there were 3 massive companies all fighting for the electrical and engineering work: Westinghouse, Edison and Thomson Houston. It was the war of the currents, alternating current or direct current, and that was the big question. Because of the competition, prices were cut, and so Tesla could not get the money to further develop his inventions. After only 2 years, Westinghouse Electric was in financial trouble. A financial crash in 1890 started in London, caused investors to call in their loans. The cash shortfall meant new investors demanded Westinghouse cut back on expensive research and patents, and Tesla's royalty payments. In fact, Tesla's induction motor hadn't even left development, and Tesla was getting a guaranteed $15,000 per year regardless. Westinghouse explained the problem to Tesla, and that he might even lose control of his own business. Tesla agreed to stop taking the royalty payments. Six years later, Westinghouse would actually buy the patent outright for $216,000 as part of a patent sharing scheme with General Electric, the new name for Edison and Thomson Houston following their merger. All of this had made Tesla wealthy, and he found time to follow his own interests. He moved and began hiring staff to help him with his experiments. In 1889, he travelled to Paris and learned of the discovery of electromagnetic radiation. He decided to investigate and invented the Tesla coil, which he patented in 1891. The same year, he became a naturalized citizen of the US. He spent the rest of the decade attempting to develop wireless lighting systems. Although he had technical success in some ways, he never managed to develop a commercial product. His new system, he said, would eventually conduct intelligible signals, or perhaps even power, to any distance without the use of wires, by conducting it through the earth. At the beginning of 1893, Westinghouse engineer Benjamin Lamy had made great progress developing an efficient version of Tesla's induction motor, and Westinghouse Electric started branding their complete polyphase AC system as the Tesla polyphase system. They believed that Tesla's patents gave them patent priority over other AC systems. Tesla was asked to participate in the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, where Westinghouse had a large space in a building devoted to electrical exhibits. The company won the right to light the exposition with alternating current. This was important to show its safety over direct current. Tesla was the great showman at the exposition. One observer stated, "Within the room were suspended two hard rubber plates covered with tin foil. These were about 15 feet apart and served as terminals of the wires leading from the transformers. When the current was turned on, the lamps or tubes, which had no wires connected to them, but lay on a table between the suspended plates, or which might be held in the hand in almost any part of the room, were made luminous. These were the same experiments and the same apparatus shown by Tesla in London about 2 years previous, where they produced so much wonder and astonishment." In 1894, Tesla had noted damaged film in his laboratory and thought it was produced by some form of invisible energy. These were later identified as X-rays, and his early experiments inadvertently captured an X-ray image. He therefore beat the inventor of X-rays by a few weeks. By 1895, the Nikola Tesla Company was set up to fund, develop and sell Tesla patents. In March, Tesla's lab caught fire. Notes and research materials were destroyed. Tesla said, "I am in too much grief to talk. What can I say?" In 1898, Tesla developed true remote control and demonstrated it with a radio-controlled boat. He believed the military would be able to make good use of the technology, but they turned him down. In the First World War, this technology would indeed become a practical reality. Tesla set up in Colorado Springs and erected experimental stations at high altitude to safely test large coils. He gained the investment of the Astor family. His intention was to wirelessly conduct signals. His megavolt experiments produced artificial lightning 135 meters long and even burnt out a generator. He really did believe that he could actually use the Earth to conduct electricity. It was here that he started to receive unknown signals on his receivers. He even speculated that they may come from another planet. This idea hit the press as signals from Mars and is used to this day as part of the evidence that he was in fact communicating with aliens. He said it was his belief that the signals could come from Mars, Venus, or other planets. Some actually believe he was really intercepting signals from Marconi's European experiments in 1899. He set out to get investors for his wireless transmission system and managed to get $150,000 from J.P. Morgan. He began to build his Wardenclyffe Tower in Shoreham, Long Island. He wanted bigger and better than Marconi's, which he stated had been copied from his own designs. He asked for more money, but was refused. By 1901, Marconi transmitted the letter S from England to Newfoundland and beat Tesla. For 5 years, Tesla wrote letter after letter to try and get more funding. But by 1902, the tower was complete and Tesla moved his lab to the location. But investors funded Marconi and the press started to turn against Tesla. He was accused of creating a hoax. By 1905, the experiment came to a halt, and by 1906, Tesla had a nervous breakdown. After having been a wealthy man, Tesla was now $20,000 in debt and had to mortgage Wardenclyffe to pay them off. He lost his property in 1915 and the tower was demolished in 1917 for real estate. But he didn't stop. He tried again to raise funds and moved from one location to another, running up debts again. By 1925, he was actually bankrupt. He worked with several companies on his Tesla turbine, but it didn't work. It was licensed to a precision instrument company and eventually found use in car speedometers. In 1915, Tesla tried to sue Marconi for infringement of his wireless tuning patents, but failed. By By 1928, the last Tesla office closed. He had gone from living in the Waldorf Astoria in 1900, where he ran up a huge bill, to gradually going down the ladder to poorer and poorer hotels, always leaving behind unpaid bills. He walked to the park and fed the pigeons. He would bring in injured birds and nurse them back to health. He spent $2,000 on them and even built a device to sport the bones of a particular white pigeon that visited him daily. Tesla said, "I have been feeding pigeons, thousands of them, for years. But there was one, a beautiful bird, pure white with light grey tips on its wings. That one was different. It was a female. I had only to wish and call her and she would come flying to me. I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was purpose in my life." But his unpaid bills and pigeon feeding forced him to move yet again. In 1934, Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company paid him $125 per month plus expenses, probably because of bad publicity Tesla was creating. He had, after all, been their star employee for many years. He held a birthday party every year and invited friends and reporters. Here he would make grand boasts about his scientific prowess. He once claimed that he had invented a motor that actually ran on cosmic rays. He was, he said, on the verge of creating a brand new energy form that went against Einstein's theories. It would be cheap and last for 500 years. He even claimed that he was working on ways to photograph memories. He had also designed a superweapon that would end all wars, called Teleforce. The press called it a death ray. It would, he said, be erected along the border and used against attacking ground armies and aircraft. He never did reveal any detailed plans, but in 1984 archive material was discovered describing an open-ended vacuum tube with gas jet seals allowing particles to exit. Supercharged particles of mercury or tungsten directed out of the stream. Indeed, he tried to get the interest of the US, UK and even Soviet governments. He even claimed that he'd actually built the device and used it, but he wouldn't give it to the world. At one party, he then claimed that one of his experiments had caused an earthquake in New York City, and that his oscillators could destroy the Empire State Building with just 5 pounds of air pressure. In 1937, on his way to feed the pigeons, he was knocked over by a taxi. He never sought medical help and never fully recovered. In 1943, at the age of 86, he died alone in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel. 2 days later, the FBI ordered the seizure of Tesla's belongings due to national security issues. Nothing was discovered to worry the government. He had led a fascinating life, a roller coaster life. He invented, theorized, became a vegetarian. He was described as the tallest, thinnest, and most serious man. He was elegant, well-groomed, and had an incredible memory. He slept 2 hours per night and never married. He considered women superior in every way, and that he was not good enough for them. He was reclusive in many ways, and yet, when he did socialise, he was said to be distinguished, sweet, sincere, modest, refined, and generous. But he could also be harsh. He didn't like overweight people, criticised clothing, and publicly derided Thomas Edison. There is little in his life that would inspire the stories we read on the internet and see in modern conspiracy documentaries, that would give rise to the ideas of government cover-ups and alien contact. And yet, these claims are being made, and they grow stronger every year. It is to these we must now turn, in light of all that we have learned. It is true that Tesla ruffled feathers. He was focused and forceful. He made mistakes in business, and a great many of his ideas simply would not have worked. But he was a great scientist, and should be regarded in the same breath as Thomas Edison and others. But did he really contact aliens? Yes, he intercepted signals in an age when several people were testing wireless transmissions. The signals he received could in fact have been many things, unknown in his age to exist, such as signals from a pulsar, which when they were finally identified were called LGMs, or little green men. This is not evidence of alien contact. It was in 1900 that Tesla announced to the world that he had detected alien signals from space. They were timed pulses, which he referred to as counting codes. He probably did receive these signals, but they were most likely natural VLF radio pulses, and may have been formed from various means, such as lightning pulses on Jupiter. At the very time that Tesla was receiving these signals, both Jupiter and Mars were rising and setting together, which may have made Tesla believe they were coming from Mars and not Jupiter. In fact, the signals could easily have been coming from distant pulsars, which is a highly magnetized rotating neutron star which gives out regular signals like a pattern. When Tesla was working on this exciting signal, pulsars were unknown, and anything with a pattern was thought to be from intelligent life. In fact, the myths of alien contact surrounding Tesla grew and changed. Fanciful stories started to emerge. In the 1930s, A.H. Matthews said that Tesla himself had been born on a flying saucer from alien parents. They came from Venus, and he built radios in order to contact their homeland. In 1959, M. Storm stated pretty much the same thing, that Tesla was an alien from Venus. Otis' car had been a bellhop at one of the many hotels where Tesla stayed. He later claimed that he had built an alien ship based on Tesla's designs. He took money from investors and disappeared with it. He was later caught and imprisoned for fraud. But none of this takes anything away from the genius that was Tesla. He did work on remote control vehicles and lay down science used to this day by NASA and others. His grand idea of free energy has yet to come true though. He did create lightning, and he did foresee many things of the future: wireless technology, helicopters, turbines, fluorescent lighting, torpedoes and X-rays. But all of these things had and were being researched and theorized by a great many people too. That takes nothing away from him. His mind was eclectic. He collected and pushed back boundaries as any good scientist should. He had over 700 patents to his name after all. But there are things that stand out. Did the FBI seize his materials simply because he may have been working on something so dangerous it would threaten national security? Or did he have information of extraterrestrial contact? We will never know the answer to that, but national security at that time was very important. It is also not evidence to simply state on a website that Tesla did this or that, and it suddenly to become true. One example is a website which stated that Tesla invented the first machine capable of searching for extraterrestrial life. How is that true? He was working on wireless technology, as several others around the globe were also. Why do we have to link this to aliens? Is that the best we can do for evidence? Using this kind of so-called evidence, they then stretch it out even further and say that he got this technology from aliens. This is a massive insult to Tesla. He was a bold, clever scientist, and he didn't need aliens to make him a visionary. He was among many on the planet who were at the cutting edge of the new electricity technology. Nothing more. Indeed, even Marconi claimed to have received signals from outer space, but put them down to interference. It is true that Tesla thought it possible he had picked up signals from space. Not messages, not communication, but signals. This was also thought to be possible by many others. This was the period of growing and early science fiction. New technologies were making almost anything seem possible, as if mankind had been in some kind of dark age. Tesla wrote to the American Red Cross about the subject, so we can actually see what he thought and not create something. To the American Red Cross, New York City. The retrospect is glorious, the prospect is inspiring. Much might be said of both, but one idea dominates my mind. This, my best, my dearest, is for your noble cause. I have observed electrical actions which have appeared inexplicable, faint and uncertain though they were. They have given me a deep conviction and foreknowledge that here long all human beings on this globe, as one, will turn their eyes to the firmament above, with feelings of love and reverence, thrilled by the glad news. Brethren, we have a message from another world, unknown and remote. It reads 1, 2, 3. It is obvious that Tesla was excited, and he was asking the old question, what if? A statement from 1937 is also used as if it were evidence he was somehow communicating with aliens. But this period is when Tesla was making many grand statements, as we have seen. Here's what he said: "I have devoted much of my time during the year past to the perfecting of a new, small and compact apparatus by which energy in considerable amounts can now be flashed through interstellar space to any distance without the slightest dispersion." When he was 75, he said, "I think that nothing can be more important than interplanetary communication. It will certainly come someday, and the certitude that there are other human beings in the universe, working, suffering, struggling, like ourselves, will produce a magic effect on mankind, and will form the foundation of a universal brotherhood that will last as long as humanity itself." Firstly, he says, "some day." That is not what would be said if he had already made contact. Secondly, he states other human beings. Well, we all know that the possibility of there being other human beings out there in the universe is remote, to say the least. If he had truly made contact with aliens, he would have known this. His own statements are vague and wishful, not certain and factual. We also have to remember, when Tesla received the signals he claimed to have picked up, he was alone. Nobody else witnessed them, and there was no method of recording them or verifying them. It is part of good scientific practice to have multiple observations and to have the experiment repeated by other scientists. None of this happened. It is therefore not evidence. It is Tesla being Tesla. Here's another one of his statements. Others may scoff at this suggestion. Communicating with one of our heavenly neighbours as Mars, or treat it as a practical joke. But I have been in deep earnest about it ever since I made my first observations in Colorado Springs. At the time, there existed no wireless plant other than mine that could produce a disturbance perceptible in a radius of more than a few miles. Furthermore, the conditions under which I operated were ideal, and I was well trained for the work. The character of the disturbances recorded precluded the possibility of their being of terrestrial origin, and I also eliminated the influence of the Sun, Moon and Venus. As I then announced, the signals consisted in a regular repetition of numbers, and subsequent study convinced me that they must have emanated from Mars, the planet having just been close to the Earth. This statement is used across the internet as evidence of Tesla picking up signals from that barren planet, but it is full of holes. He states there were no other wireless plants. This is untrue. There were many experiments happening in the race to make money from wireless communication. It was very big business. He eliminated the influence of the Sun, Moon and Venus. How? He does not say. Because it was not true. He had no idea what patterns of signals they were and are putting out. He states that it came from Mars and gives us no idea how he proves this. We are to trust his statement. It is grandstanding, it is attention-seeking or fanciful imagination, nothing more. If indeed he were picking up signals from aliens, then thousands of people would have picked them up in subsequent years. Signals from Mars cannot be blocked by any nation. Technology in the hands of amateur astronomers across the planet is today millions of times more powerful than the technology available to Tesla, and yet we have nothing. Tesla was a genius, but he was not communicating with aliens. He was a visionary because he had a powerful imagination, and all too often that merged and mixed up with reality in his mind. It is a Walter Mitty style mind. Many of his ideas were simply unworkable because they were so theoretical and bizarre. He was, like many other scientists such as Edison and William Crook, fascinated with the paranormal because electricity was an invisible force. The spirit world and alien life were an exciting idea that science may have been now able to find, invisible forces that may also be hiding. Tesla's supposed amazing inventions that never saw the light of day are touted on the internet as amazing and used as evidence that he was silenced by those in power. But the fact remains, those making these claims have very little idea about the science behind them. Real scientists respect Tesla for what he was, not for the mad ideas he persistently put forward. The unworkable theories remain just that. His death ray is a prime example. Conspiracy theories say this invention was taken by the military and covered up. If that were the case, then we would have seen it in use by now. Nobody hit the nuclear bombs of Hiroshima years later. By now, we would have seen something. The fact is, Tesla was fantasizing. One conspiracy theory website claims Tesla had discovered how to extract electricity from the atmosphere, and that energy and oil companies have covered this up for all these years, and nobody else has managed to discover it. It is said that Tesla is hidden away and not given credit where it is due. Tesla was outdone with radio, Marconi won, it is stated. But the patent office has conceded that Tesla did actually get there first. Tesla is taught in textbooks in schools. The SI unit of magnetism was named after him and called the Tesla in his honour. That's not hushing him up, that's showing scientific respect. His scientific might is being overblown by those who know little of the science. There are also the issues of Tesla's OCD nature. He was obsessed with both cleaning and the number 3, and had a fear of round objects and germs. He often isolated himself and didn't shake hands. There is nothing wrong with any of this, of course, but they do help us to build a picture of the man's mental state. Regardless of what is stated on the internet, Nikola Tesla did not invent everything on the planet, and he didn't get it all from aliens either. There are numerous insults here. Firstly, it insults the actual inventors of the things Tesla had no hand in. Secondly, the alien connection insults Tesla's intelligence and imagination. Thirdly, it insults the rest of us who ought to know better than to listen to this oversimplification of history. The biggest conspiracy afoot here is this: people with little or no knowledge, but with huge egos and chips on their shoulders, are making up history. They are doing what they accuse others of doing. They are creating lies and getting themselves attention. Tesla was a dreamer, scientist and showman. He knew how to play the press with his grand metaphysical statements and fanciful demonstrations. He knew that the people knew little. He loved to get credit and yet hated to give it to his assistants. Ben Lamy and Schallenberger at Westinghouse took Tesla's induction motor that simply didn't work, redesigned it and made it work. Tesla did not give them credit. Although Tesla did like to isolate himself, he also loved to wine and dine the New York elite and press to spread the news of his own greatness. Regardless of the fact that Tesla was actually wrong about a great many of his claims and inventions, he is today a god of science because he managed to get the press to cover his tales. These tales are used even today and spread far and wide. Repeat something often enough and it becomes truth, apparently. Let's just take a look at some of these claims. The biggest is that Tesla invented alternating current. Absolutely not true. Tesla just developed it a little. The first alternating current generator was created in 1832 by Hippolyte Pixii. It was in use across Europe by 1880, and it was not until 1886 that Tesla went to get his patent for polyphase alternating current, a year after an Italian inventor had been spreading the news of his own ideas. In fact, there were dozens of inventors and scientists working on alternating current. It is also claimed that Tesla invented the transformer, when in fact the Ganz company in Budapest had already got there in late 1870. Tesla was still in school at this time, and it was later when he moved to Budapest that he may have learned of its use. The first modern transformer was invented in 1885 by William Stanley. Again, there were several people working on it around the world. Tesla and his co-worker simply adapted it to work with his two-phase alternating current. Other myths include Tesla inventing the induction coil, the loudspeaker, fluorescent lamps, microwave transmitters, and radar. All of these claims are absolutely false. It is also false to claim that Tesla didn't like attention and was the underdog. He was a showman because that's how you got funding. There were others doing the same today, linked with the name Tesla. Tesla knew business and knew that constant self-promotion was like a company brand. It needed constant promotion. The biggest falsity is that Tesla was about to give the world free power wirelessly and was silenced. Tesla died of old age. He wasn't silenced. Energy will never be free, and wireless distribution across the planet would cost trillions in infrastructure. Wireless power loses potency over even short distances. Energy just dissipates. All of this is quite apart from the immense danger of throwing high voltage energy around the Earth. Tesla was not all the things touted on the internet. He was very smart, and he was one of many at that time. He kept his eye on what was happening in the scientific community, and he was one of the few in the United States working on alternating current. He therefore stood out. He took the work of Europeans, developed it, and promoted it through his own ego to the Americans who were hungry for it. His polyphase alternating current was not his own, it had already been developed. But Tesla's induction motor patents were something extremely valuable, and Westinghouse made millions on the back of them. We started out this investigation about a man who was and is an enigma to many. But just like good science, we have broken it all down into its constituent parts and found all the claims of conspiracies and alien contact to be quite ridiculous and fanciful creations from people who have nothing better to do other than get themselves attention. Nikola Tesla came from a decent middle-class family. He was tutored, well-fed and happy. He had an imaginative and inquisitive mind and an even bigger ego. He chased his dreams, achieved some of them, and made a name for himself. He had a caring side and loved animals. He was a man of his time, like so many others who have become household names. But he was not the greatest genius the world has ever known. He was not conspired against by greedy energy companies. He was employed by them. He was not in contact with aliens. He was imaginative and may have picked up some natural cyclic patterns or other inventors' signals. This may not be what you want to hear, because we do love a good story, but it is history, and nobody has the right to alter that with fantasy.